It's the year 2000. PlayStation 2 has just been released. Napster is everywhere. Bill Clinton is the president of the United States. And you just bought yourself a brand new computer. Now you're at a crossroads. Which operating system do you pick? Two have just been released, Windows ME and Windows 2000. And you're a gamer, so you want maximum performance. Which one do you pick? Stick around and we're going to find out. Welcome to Computer Retro Bus. My name is Bill. In this episode, we're going to compare Windows ME and Windows 2000 and have a look at which one performs better. So I've got two identical hard drives here, two Seagate 7200 RPM, and we're going to install an operating system on each and then run the benchmarks and see which one gives us better frame rates and better performance overall. This was one of my favorite eras. It was such an exciting time to be in computers and in gaming. Things were advancing so quickly. The graphics were just getting better and better every year and just looking amazing. But it was getting so much more demanding on the hardware as well. But you know, the actual culture was just exploding as well. You had LAN cafes were popping up, Counter-Strike, Quake 3 Arena, Unreal Tournament. Just these were such popular games played everywhere. Most people were still on dial-up. I know I was in my area. Gaming and computers were just becoming so much more mainstream. A lot more people had computers in their homes now. At this stage, Windows still had their operating systems quite separate. They had their consumer operating systems. This was the Windows 9X range, 95, 98, and then ME, which was just released. And then they had their professional range, which were much more stable. Back then it was Windows NT, and then Windows 2000 was pretty much that next version of that. So they really kept them separate. The 9X range was more for the home consumer use, and the professional NT kernel-based ones were for workplaces where stability was much more important. So yeah, it was a great time to be alive. So let's get to installing these operating systems and to those benchmarks.
So the test system we're going to use is focused on the year 2000. We have a Pentium III 933 MHz released in the year 2000 on a DFI motherboard with a VAIO Apollo Pro chipset. I've put in 256 meg of RAM, which is pretty luxurious for the time. 64 to 128 was probably more the norm. A Sound Blaster Vibra 16, which is pretty ordinary, and an NVIDIA Quadro 2 Pro with 64 meg of RAM. Also released in the year 2000. While it is a workstation card, probably the closest equivalent would be a GeForce 2 Ultra. So let's get into a little bit more detail about these operating systems. So Windows ME was released June 19, the year 2000. I've installed all the updates that came out for Windows ME till the end of its life. On the other side, we have Windows 2000, released on February 17, also the year 2000, and this one is the version with Service Pack 4 installed. So both operating systems are in the best shape that they can be to give them a fair playing ground. Okay, let's kick things off with 3D Mark 2000. Right off the bat, it's pretty damn close. This is Windows ME is just taking it by a frame or two, max 3-4. So really close. This is looking a little similar to my Windows 98 versus XP with this similar machine. So looking really close. Onto Adventure, and it's exactly the same. We've got Windows ME taking it by a couple of frames. Not much in it at all. Looking at the high polygon test, these flying bangles. Look at this. This is pretty much just spot on. I'd say exactly the same. So here we are with the final score, and this has got to be the closest I've ever seen between any two operating systems. So it's 4,554 to Windows ME, and Windows 2000 has the slightest of leads at 4,568. Okay, moving on to 3D Mark 2001. This looks pretty much close as well, but Windows ME does something really funny here. It has a bit of a stutter where it really drops the frame rate. Just as this four-wheel drive starts going through the between the legs of that mech, it really drops the frame rate. But then when we move on to Dragothica, it looks pretty similar, except the roles are reversed. The frames I'm just noticing is 1 or 2 frames always favoring Windows 2000 this time. But otherwise, very, very close. Moving on to the lobby. The lobby shows a bit more gaps. Sometimes it just jumps, 10 to almost 20 frames sometimes towards Windows 2000, but then it does snap back and is pretty close otherwise. So again, hard to really tell if there is much of an advantage. And now moving on to what me and my friends fondly used to call the flying turd. When you look at these frame rates, pretty much neck and neck really. When we move on to the scores, there's more of a gap with this one. So Windows 2000 does take more of a lead with 2,613 compared to 2,287 from Windows ME. So I think those little stutters really punished Windows ME here. Unfortunately, this was going to be a theme that I'm going to experience going forward. Okay, so let's go back to 1999 and Unreal Tournament. So looking at the intro, and it's, they're exactly the same really. Windows ME has it by a frame or two, but otherwise there's really nothing you can split a hair on these two. When we move to the gameplay, it's the same story. I really could not perceive any difference. These frame rates look exactly the same really. I've tried to go to the same places in the screen and it all looks the same. I did swap capture cards halfway through this, which is why you will see the color difference between ME and 2000. So that's not due to the software at all. It's due to my two different capture cards. So yeah, apologies for that. Also released in 1999, Quake 3 Arena. So we'll start off with the time demo. Looked pretty close again. When we look at the final results, it is very close. It's 58 frames for the Windows ME and 64 Windows 2000. So yeah, not much in it at all. So going into the gameplay now, what I've done is grab the railgun and try to snipe him from position. Very, not the most successfully, unfortunately, but you can see the frame rates are pretty much the same. It was right around this time that Windows ME decided to really take me down memory lane and give me a good old blue screen. I haven't seen one of these in a while. Thanks, ME. Okay, so let's go forward a couple of years. Moving on to the year 2001, and Return to Castle Wolfenstein has been released. This was a fantastic game. Looking at our frame numbers, no surprise, it looks very much the same. And look, I think the monstrous amount of RAM that I have in this, 256 meg of RAM was pretty luxurious for the year 2000. So I think that really does help Windows 2000 here. But yeah, barely any perceivable difference really. Again, the colors are due to different capture devices. Later on in the year 2001, this gem came out, Grand Theft Auto 3. Now this was a console game, so it really is frame capped at 30, I believe. So it plays interestingly. Good old console ports. But that stutter I mentioned earlier, well, it creeps back in this game. So looking at Windows 2000, it's always quite smooth, keeps a nice frame rate. But with Windows ME, for some reason, it just really has these moments where it just stutters or freezes for a couple of seconds and then continues on. Yeah, Windows ME just has some issues with this game for some reason. Just the frame rate doesn't reflect well enough. The game almost pauses for like half a second, then it continues again. And it just does this intermittently. Really annoying and makes it quite unplayable. Moving on to the year 2002, and Need for Speed Hot Persuit 2. So this game is much more demanding. You look at these frame rates, it's absolutely crawling, but absolutely spot on. They're almost exactly identical. As soon as there's other car models on the screen, it really grinds it down to those single digits. Once the traffic disappears though, it gets a bit better, a bit more playable. But again, I'm experiencing that stutter. If you look at Windows ME, you'll see that there's a minor pause and the frame rate drops and then slowly picks up again. This game and its physics are always full of surprises. You never know what you're going to get. Just driving down here and a cop comes flying past and absolutely poleaxes me here. Yeah, by the time I gather my wits and understand what the hell just happened, he's already changed direction and is going in pursuit of somebody else now.
If you'd like to support my channel, you can buy me a coffee or sign up to my Patreon, where I will have early access and behind the scenes footage about some of the stuff that I do here. Okay, so there we have it. Two operating systems released in the same year. Performance-wise, very similar. Not enough to really sway your choices. But in terms of stability, you would easily pick Windows 2000. I remember when Windows 2000 came out and the first time I installed it, I was just blown away by how stable it was. Hardly ever saw a blue screen, no crashes, didn't have to reinstall my operating system every 6 to 12 months. It really was a revelation. And after Windows 2000 came XP, and this is when Windows operating systems unified under that NT core, and we just moved away from that 9X madness and just moved into a more stable operating system. We look back on the 9X stuff, especially 98 SC, with nostalgia and good memories, but it really wasn't the best in terms of running Windows 98, especially out of those 9X, was probably the most nostalgic and probably the best one that we love the most, really. But running it day to day is different to just installing it, running a benchmark. Running it day to day, you did come across more issues and things that would go wrong. And I remember I would restart my computer just to free up the RAM. I'm not sure if that was a thing or not, if it actually helped, but there's always this thing, like if you wanted to run a different game, you'd restart your computer so it would free up the RAM and then you'd run it. Whereas the NT based stuff just had so much better memory management. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I had a lot of fun making it. Hit me up in the comments, tell me about some of your memories, what operating systems you ran, which ones you liked, which ones you hated. It'd be great to hear from you guys. Really enjoying my YouTube journey and interaction with you all. Hope to see you in the next one.